seven times great-grandfather, was an English doctor who was a specialist in smallpox, and he was basically invited to the court of Catherine the Great in St. Petersburg and Tsarskoye Selo to inoculate her from smallpox. And so it could have gone badly wrong. I mean, it just was indicative really of what a progressive leader Catherine was, the Empress was, and she kind of trusted this provincial English doctor. Anyway, it all went right. She and much of her family in the court were inoculated against smallpox that had been causing great damage at that time. And my ancestor was, well, he did very well out of it, is all I can say. He was rewarded very well for his efforts. And so, yeah, I've certainly had in the past, I've been to see some of the places in Moscow and St. Petersburg where this happened. And yeah, I know it's a long time ago, but you know, it still feels like something, certainly something in our family where we don't have many famous people. We celebrate that particular famous person.
Hello there. My name is Jildas. I am the representative of the Global Compass Agency in Kyrgyzstan. We are the official representatives of Cambridge Education Group and the institutions that it has under its umbrella. I would like to apologize on behalf of all the participants because some of them may still be reaching out, I don't know, to home to trying to connect. Maybe they haven't arrived home yet.
Don't certainly, thank you, but don't worry so far as I'm concerned. I mean, I know that this session's being recorded. I will also then share with you, Yulia, the PowerPoints that I'll be showing. So, you know, there'll be plenty of time for people to catch up with anything in due course. So
we may experience some participants joining in later because very often students join later because of various issues, and but we can start anyways because it is being recorded and we will be sharing the recording with all the participants. We did share the announcement also with the schools because the school counselors, because they usually send out the information about various events. And they did also warn us because of the holiday season now, students may not be very keen to join another Zoom session because it just finished for everyone, the whole Zoom period for them, because it's now officially vacation time.
Well, I say cheers to all of those students who think that vacation is important. We also believe that vacation time is important alongside the hard work. So no, that's absolutely fine. Thank you for explaining that. Yes, I will be on vacation next week myself, so I fully empathize with anyone doing that. Okay, so would you like me, should I just get started?
Let me talk briefly about who we are as well, so that some of the participants may not be aware.
Okay.
And then just we can start because I see some people joining already. My name is Jildas. I represent Global Compass Agency. We're based in Bishkek, the capital of Kyrgyzstan. We've been working in the market since 2015, and we are based in the center of the city, which is very convenient for students. Our conference sessions are free. We send students all over the world to various programs, including language programs, preparatory programs such as foundation programs for university entrance, to degree programs, including bachelor and master's. And today, I really appreciate your time of our partners to deliver a masterclass, basically a workshop on how to prepare portfolios so that students who are creative and have ambitions to start a creative career or a career in a creative industry, they can certainly learn a lot from you about it. And those who are considering entering a school in creative arts are welcome to come and consult with us regarding CSCPA, which is Cambridge School of Visual and Performing Arts. So I would like to present you as well as our partner, Edward Dempster, and you as I know are the head of graduate programs. So in case of their students who are thinking of doing masters, it would be great to know also later on, maybe at the end of the presentation, about the opportunities that CSPK provides as you finish the whole masterclass session. But I would also like to note that UK nowadays provides amazing opportunities for students, foreign students, international students, which they didn't provide for a long while before that. I think Brexit made it actually possible for students from Kyrgyzstan as well. So now students, if they're going to study in the UK after they graduate, whether it's a one-year master's program or a three-year bachelor program, they can stay in the country for 2 additional years for post-study work opportunities. So it turns out not many people, not many students and parents know about it. So you can also maybe, if you have some students who have experience after you've done that, it would be great to share maybe their stories. But well, now I give the floor to you, Edward, and you can basically introduce yourself and tell me about the school and jump right onto the topic.
Okay, right. Well, look, thank you very much, and welcome everyone. I'm probably going to do things. I'm already going to start going off message. That's partly what I do, because I'll be doing it the other way around. I'll be talking initially about some of the opportunities and the courses at CSVPA, and then I'll end up talking about designing a portfolio, because actually, well, I'll leave that until a little bit later. So we'll culminate with that. But I'm just going to start off. I'll share my screen in a moment, and I'm going to rattle through a couple of PowerPoints prepared by my colleagues who are not able to be here today, largely because they run the bachelor's graphics and illustration and the bachelor's fashion and fashion communication courses. They are involved with Graduate Fashion Week today. Actually, it was this morning for the fashion shows in London, and the BA graphics and illustration course are preparing for an exhibition that opens in London on Friday. So they are otherwise engaged. I'm still in Cambridge twiddling my thumbs, so I've taken up that baton. So look, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to go through just their PowerPoints, the PowerPoints that they would present their courses. I'll go through it fairly rapidly. You'll be able to revisit the portfolios at some point if you so wish. But I think that what's important is that it'll, across both the fashion and then the graphics and illustration portfolios, give a little bit of a sense of the culture in higher education at CSVPA at degree level. And then that, in a sense, then paves the way for what we are trying to do, what we're doing and looking to do in the graduate school at master's level and graduate diploma also at CSVPA. So we're kind of going from level 4, 5, 6 up to level 7, and then we'll come to the matter of portfolios to the end. So if you bear with me, I'll share my screen and I will pop up the first. I think we'll go through the fashion portfolios first. Sorry, let me just do it from that way. So hopefully you will see this screen here. Please do let me know if suddenly the sound drops off or the images aren't appearing. But so this is Zoe Gilbertson, who is, you'll see in a moment actually, because you know, for them they start with the fashion staff. Here are the fashion staff wearing oh so fashionable Christmas party hats at their Christmas party, actually just in a restaurant next to CSVPA. Someone must be paying them too much, because I can see that they're drinking champagne. But anyway, there they are coming together, and they are a really strong team, I must say. So Holly Fulton, head of fashion, she is one of the most significant designers in the British fashion scene and is exceptionally well connected, and we're very proud to have her as our head of fashion. And she would then work with all students at probably towards the later points of their time on the course. Zoe Gilbertson, who is the course leader for fashion design and fashion communication. This was a fact that I didn't know until I saw the PowerPoint, that she'd actually designed a dress for Anna Kournikova that was included in British Vogue's list of best tennis outfits of all time. I have nothing like that on my CV. But anyway, Zoe does the day-to-day running of the fashion courses. And then alongside the team, across a whole range of different skills and inputs, from technical to conceptual to a whole range, as I say, of skills, pattern cutting and the like. This is the fashion team, but it also includes a broader family of designers, practitioners, writers, journalists, from the likes of Bethany Williams, John Booth, who is a fashion illustrator, to the workshops and the study trips to tailors on Savile Row, whether it be Catherine Sargent or Holland and Sherry. That sense in which, yes, the course is based in the fashion studios in Cambridge, but not only reaches out into the London British fashion scene, but also gets in some of the most innovative fashion practitioners. Rottingdean Bazaar, as one example, who are, who seem like they're just jokesters, pranksters in the fashion world, but actually through, as we know, kind of very often it's clowns who kind of give us that sort of serious insight into the business. And so, it's just one of the ways that the fashion department use innovative approaches in order to help students really get to grips with what matters most, even through comedy, humor, and the absurd. But across working with specialists in styling or even photographers, I have to declare an interest here. When I used to teach on the MA photography course at LCC, the London College of Communication, Katja Mayer was one of my students. And she was one of those students that you thought, well, she shouldn't really be the student, I should be the student. She had more to teach me in many respects, I think. But it's great. It's really nice when Katja comes up and talks about photography specialisms to the fashion designers and fashion communicators. So across all range of different practitioners, millinery, embroidery, the fashion team bring in the contacts and the talents, very often up and coming talents, who make the course so vibrant. But also includes, of course, kind of the role of the influencer nowadays. I mean, a few years ago, who knew what an influencer was? And nowadays, who doesn't want to be an influencer? But whether it be Victoria McGrath or a range of other such practitioners, they come in with their understandings about how to build, grow, and develop brands. And you can see here, even working with members of staff and practitioners overseas, Connie Lim, based in LA, sometimes in London. Here you can see her doing an online tutorial with a student. So, wherever people are in the world, we kind of reach out to bring them in to our studios in Cambridge. Okay, so certain brands that the fashion department have worked with, and as you might already recognize, some of these brands are leading brands in both luxury and sportswear. Finisterre, Stella McCartney, O'Neill, Superdry, and that list is being added to all the time. And just a few example projects was an upcycling project that with O'Neill, O'Neill donated thousands of dead stock bikinis that were then repurposed, upcycled, and so vital to be really thinking about what the sustainability agenda is within the fashion industry, and that upcycling is clearly an important part of that. Another series of lectures with Marine Dorcel around branding, brand identity, working with the fashion branding and communications students, working with the third-year students on developing their own brand identities. So there's lots of collaborative link-ups across courses, not just within fashion, but also across various other courses. I'll be talking more about the absolute vital importance of interdisciplinary practice within art and design today, and when I talk about the graduate school in a moment. But you can see it here already happening. It's whatever is collective and collaborative. Of course, the individual is vital, but it's within a context of collective, collaborative, live briefs, such as the ones displayed here. So closed, high-level German brand here. The fashion students were designing concept jeans for closed. Finisterre, again, circularity, sustainability, all of that being explored, not simply in some kind of dry lecture context, but it's as a live brief. So this is actually people working for the brand Finisterre who are coming in and working with the students, and an exchange of ideas. It becomes an exchange of practices as students learn in real world environments. It's absolutely vital. And this is one of the things that we absolutely are doing. You know, I'm not saying it's only in the UK, but significantly in art and design, and in the UK more and more, and particularly at CSVPA, it's this idea of real world learning. It's working with business, working with industry, but in a real in a real way. Can I ask everyone just to turn your microphones off, please, until any questions later on. Thank you very much indeed. So just, you know, more live client briefs. You can see working with more local companies, Homebody and Monsieur Hulot. So this is the way in which CSVPA fashion department interacts, contributes to local enterprise, the community, ideas of entrepreneurship. As I say, an enterprise are very much fostered in this live brief, real life situation way. The courses on fashion, there's either a fashion BA, which is a fashion design BA, and there's also a fashion branding and creative communication BA. The latter is less about the designing of the fashion, of course, or accessories, and more about the crafting of the fashion image, fashion photography, of course, fashion film, communicators, journalists, brand strategists, stylists. So you can see the synergies that might operate between these courses are great. So new for 2021, we're really excited to have Clo3D. Clo3D, which is kind of the market leading digital fashion design platform, and it's absolutely vital because it's, you know, it is in this way, with the rise of digital fashion, you know, future employers now and the industry in the future are absolutely going to require students with the advanced digital skills as well as the atelier craft skills. So it's about being able to operate both in the physical craft world and in the digital virtual space. Each one requires skills, technical know-how, conceptual depth, and the application of imagination. So this is really exciting, and we are absolutely aware that the future is going in two directions at once, both in terms of the actual as well as the digital and the virtual. So here's some examples just of some student work. Ka-Yi Lee, you'll see a little bit of her work at Graduate Fashion Week last year in a moment, but this is her work. She's from Hong Kong, and here she is kind of having work published in major magazines as a result of her show at London Fashion Week, Graduate Fashion Week, I beg your pardon, not last year, but the year before last, because there was only an online one last year. But here again, Lisa Gerstenfeld, you know, the kind of BA level collections that were attracting major interest at Graduate Fashion Week. And I think you can probably agree, without even a knowledge of fashion, that one would not be surprised to see this during London Fashion Week, Milan Fashion Week, Moscow Fashion Week, you know, wherever. This is high level achievement for a level 6 BA honours. And you can see how some of the work has also appeared in various editorials. And the way in which on fashion branding and creative communication, there's a real emphasis on thinking about trends and trend forecasting, anticipating what's just around the corner, and not just anticipating, not just guessing what might be coming, but how does one work to help create the future, what is just around the corner. And so it's really thinking about trends, it's thinking about the psychology and the philosophy. It needs a requirement of a knowledge of history and sociology and kind of geopolitics even. So this idea that fashion has become a critical lens through which to understand the world, well, I think everyone will know that. And if you don't already know it, it will become increasingly important in years to come. So this was the showcase, the last Graduate Fashion Week showcase in 2018 in Covent Garden, London. So the fashion department always tried to show that work in London. So it's there, available, open to press and professionals. The showcase in 2019 was at the Institute of Contemporary Arts. Again, different location, but also taking Cambridge up to London, Cambridge innovation up to London, again, for the centre of the fashion industry. And so this participation in Graduate Fashion Week is always really key. Let me just show you a snip of Kai's work from a couple of years ago.
Now, I don't want to see any fake-ass workers. I need real builders. Work, work it, work, work it, open up, sweat it, work it, sweat, sweat it, open up. I want to smell you. Yeah, I want to smell you. I want to smell you even from far away. I want to smell you. I want to feel you, so I can know if you're a winner. Work it, work it, work it, open it. Winners, work it good. Sweat, sweat it, open it. How does that feel? Tell me, how does that feel? Is sweat dripping down your balls? Well, then you're not a winner yet. But come on. Work it, work it, work it, work it, open it. Sweat it, work it, work it.
Okay, I'd love to show more of that, but I'm not going to. But it's just that sense in which one might look at this and think, but that's ridiculous. I could never wear that garment. But what I can assure you is that employability, the sense in which, you know, if you're wanting to apply to start your career in fashion design as part of an atelier, a design studio, they're looking for the students with ideas who can bring ideas to the table, not simply do the tame, boring, one might say mundane jobs that you might have to do as part of professional practice. But that's why one sees in this bespoke world a kind of strangeness, monstrousness, one might say. But, you know, and it's not just in fashion. More and more nowadays, the times we live in are so strange, are so peculiar, so complex, that it's the solutions, the creative solutions that are strange and wonderful, that have not been seen before. That is what leads to employability. If all the professional skills are there as well, plus imagination, that equals employability. You can be as professional as you like, but if you don't have the imagination, if you haven't generated a body of work, a portfolio, a collection that's going to make people's minds soar and their imaginations kind of grasp hold of it, well, then you're not going to be competitive. So this is actually today, this morning, 16th of June. These are just some images from this year's Graduate Fashion Week. Rather than showing 6 outfits, students this year were only had to make 3 outfits. This is Xing Ying Lim. She's from Malaysia, and this was part of her presentation this morning. An extraordinary piece of work. She's from Malaysia, as I say, and the work was around kind of rattan, and I've no doubt that she's going to get picked up by the press for her collection. Really very striking, experimental, innovative. And extraordinary. So yeah, so all of our level 6 final year fashion design students showed at London Fashion Week just this morning, and you could probably catch up with that if you sign up to the Graduate Fashion Week website as well. So yes, you know, our students get national press, the Times and Daily Telegraph. And just to say a little bit about our experience of working online. Well, when we had to work online, well, we managed to work online pretty effectively. However, you know, we've been working back in the studio since March the 8th, but we now feel that whatever this pandemic brings us, we'll be balancing what we absolutely want to do, which is be in the studios, hands-on, but at the same time, bringing in the cream of the rising stars in fashion. For example, in the Creativity and Conversation series last year, where the School of Fashion brought in some of the hottest talents, Ursula de Castro, who is a leading campaigner as part of Fashion Revolution for sustainability in fashion, Louise Bennett's a designer, and their photographers, and a whole range of other stylists who are all coming in, and you can see they're all very much kind of in their late 20s, and these are the movers and the shakers, and these are also kind of a generation that our current students can feel a real kind of empathy with as well. So we, again, this is that sense in which we go out to the world and we bring the world as it is into the studios. So
it's very nice.
So I'm just going to keep moving on. I won't. You'll be able to follow that yourself if you want to have a look at the PowerPoint later. But yeah, so all the while we've been looking to innovate technical teaching methods. And again, you can follow that up for yourself. There are recorded technical demonstrations as well. And you know, and I'll just spend the last couple of minutes on fashion. Talking about the branding, fashion branding studio, and show you the fashion branding studio, show you Studio 1. There's Alina, the technician, kind of giving a wave to the camera. Studio 2. These don't look like they normally look. They're normally full of color, action. This is clearly in between one term and another term. But anyone wanting further information about the course should contact Zoe Gilbertson there. That's her email. So I've done my best, I suppose, to represent her courses. I hope I did a decent job. And now I'm going to try and do the same with the other BA courses with whom, you know, I do work. I work with Zoe, I work with John Blackman, who's the head of graphics and illustration, and we have students coming from the BA level into the graduate school. But as I say, I'm a bit of a guest in these courses, so I hope I'm doing them justice. So the other BA course we have is a BA graphics and illustration. And, you know, basically John starts off basically by saying, you know, why study in Cambridge? I'll talk a little bit more about that, about the graduate school, but frankly, it's a rather beautiful place to live, to work, to study. London is 45 to 50 minutes away with all the resources of London, but without the headache sometimes of the amount of kind of ground to cover in London. And of course, we do have link ups with Cambridge University. As I say, I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So why choose to study graphics and illustration? Well, these are kind of how the course present themselves. It's all about the individual, and this idea of the individual, that's as true in fashion as it is graphics and illustration, as it is in the graduate school. We are small, we are intense, we are intimate. It is a bespoke experience. You know, I used to work, as I said, at LCC, where I was giving lectures to sometimes 120 students in a lecture hall. And then I'd maybe meet them individually for 20 minutes a term, or almost not much more than that. So here it really is kind of intense. You can talk to a member of staff every day of the week if you wish to, and we keep the numbers small. And the tutor-student ratio is also correspondingly small. We are a very, very multicultural school, really students drawn from all across the world and the UK as well, but it's a genuinely global experience, and that is one of the reasons why I love working at CSBPA, I must say. Yes, there is free printing. We have high-end printers, and you get free printing for exhibitions, large color format, and then generally A4, A3 full color black and white printing. But I can also assure you we do plant trees in order to offset the amount of paper we get through. But that is not insignificant, because we ask you to print a lot out, to experiment, to make little maquettes and zines. It's really an important part of the course. So you're on graphics and illustration, you're timetabled 5 days a week, you're kept very busy. There is a daily contact, but then there's also space and time for one's own critical reflection. There's access to the studios 7 days a week. You can see kind of the times there. And in the most recent National Student Survey, we have UAL on the left, CSVP on the right. If you're the kind of person who likes numbers to do the talking, well, the numbers there are doing quite a lot of talking. It's slightly unfair in some respects, given how huge UAL is and how tiny we are by correspondence. However, it's not to say that we work hard to achieve, and certainly John and his team work hard to achieve this for graphics and illustration. Really, really significant support, guidance and facilitation of their students. And you can see here the proportion of so-called good degrees, first or 2-1s, has been rising, dip in 1920, back up in 2021 to 80%. So, we are enabling our students to achieve significant awards. So, the combining of graphics and illustration, it's partly the USP, the unique selling point of the CSVPA course. And here's an example of one of the briefs that's a brief about designing postage stamps. And I'm not going to have time to go through all of these, but that designing a postage stamp becomes one of the kind of workshops, projects alongside seminars and lectures that feed this innovative pedagogical space. Assessment and feedback happens all the time. It happens at the end of each study block. That's what we call terms. But also it happens kind of on a weekly, daily basis all the time. And so kind of students are continually being fed back and able to grow in that respect. So, a year map to the experience across year 1 for graphics and illustration BA. It's quite a prescriptive first phase, and it's the place where you as a student would begin to discover who you were as a visual communicator. Year 2, there's a transition where it becomes more negotiated. The student becomes more in control of what and how they might direct themselves towards the industry. But of course, not just the industry, but to masters. More and more students, of course, move from a BA to an MA. And so in terms of the industry or in terms of an academic progression, that starts to become more and more fine-tuned. And then in year 3, you can see that real focus. It's about the focus, the clarification, and taking a project to full resolution through those 3 years. There is some academic writing on both graphics and illustration and fashion BAs, and you can see kind of it ends up with a 5,000 word dissertation, but that's fully supported all the way through, and skills are built in through level 4, first year, level 5, the second year, level 6, the third year. There are visiting lectures coming in. It's all about kind of bringing in the industry connections and ideas around professional practice. And there's always a graduate show in London. And as I said, well, last year it was an online show. So you'd be able to click through to see the 2020 degree show because it moved online during the pandemic last year. But this year, I'm delighted to say at the Espacio Gallery in London's East End, opening this Friday. Well, you probably can't get to London for this Friday, more's the pity. But here is on the BA Graphics illustration Instagram. The show's called It's Been a Drag, a pun, obviously in English, around, drag, and also then, just what the experience has been of this past 18 months. But yeah, so, the shows are back in physical spaces this year. So for that, we are very grateful. So graduation ceremony is happening in Cambridge. This is from a couple of years ago. And we are having a graduation this coming Monday, although It's going to be fairly small scale. All students from this year who will do the small scale graduation will be invited back next year when we hope to have a real big celebration. So what's needed to apply? A portfolio, evidence of idea development, some sketchbook pages, a personal statement, some idea of the specialism that you might be interested in. You know, in terms of illustration, you might include any of these. And again, if you can follow this up on the PowerPoint afterwards, it might be you wanted to include some examples of printmaking or kind of graphic design as well. So, you know, across all of these are not only skills that are developed, but they're also elements that you might want to bring into an application portfolio. So across graphic design, illustration, kind of photography, and then animation, we can see all of these become kind of resonant media that one can experiment with and explore on this course. Do you know what? I'm not going to show you these two animations because I think we haven't quite got the time to do so. But you could watch the animation Metabolis, and then you can watch the making of Metabolis as well, if you like. It'll give you a good sense of how important we find making of videos as much as anything else. But here we go. Here's graphics on the one hand, illustration on the other, you know, separate, one might imagine, but brought together in this unique BA course here at CSVPA in Cambridge. Okay, so I know I'm rattling through these different courses. I'm now going to, I'm just going to start this final section with a short clip. Let me give you some rationale for this short clip, if I may. So this was actually this time last year, or a little bit earlier in the year, we all had to go back home. So our global cohort of students all had to go back to various parts of the world, including kind of Russia, including Ukraine, including Uzbekistan, I seem to remember at that time. And so, but they nevertheless wanted to keep working together. So this is a short clip. It's only about 3 minutes. But it was a game. They started to play a game where one person, they took names out of a hat. The first person did the first piece of work, and then they each had to respond to the last piece of work until they brought it all together into a joyous celebration of making, creativity, art, design. And so these are all by students from last year's MA programs. And I'll talk a little bit more about those in a moment. What was so astonishing about that, and I'm not exaggerating when I say it was kind of astonishing, was the fact that they didn't have to do anything. They didn't, no one said, you have to make this work, you've got to work together to be able to produce it. They chose to do it, and they chose to start it days after everyone had had to go back to their home countries. It was quite amazing. We were exceptionally proud of them. And as I say, they did it off their own bat. And I would like to think that everything that they had begun to learn about operating as an individual, but then also working together as a collective, that everything that had happened in the first study block running up to Christmas, they then carried on when it was into their own hands. So that idea on the MA that students are becoming independent, that they're becoming autonomous, that they have agency, that really they don't need people to tell them what to do or how to do it. They're doing it themselves with guidance, facilitation. It becomes a conversation about developing one's creative practice. Well, that is really important to us. Look, okay, I'm going to talk about the graduate school now, and I'm head of the graduate school, so now I'm on rather more home territory. But we know. Let's start with the difficulty. The world is faced with complex problems. We know that. 6 critical global issues, from politics to economics to science to technology. We know that how beset we are with problems. I mean, maybe that's always been the case. The climate and the like. However, complex problems require ingenious approaches. And actually that ingenuity, that resilience, that imagination doesn't just come from engineers and scientists and politicians, those who do seek to try and bring things about and solve problems. It comes equally from artists and designers who will absolutely need to be part of interdisciplinary teams in the future. Well, now and in the future. So new perspectives, new skills are required to face the challenges of the future. And we believe that here at CSVPA, and I would like to say specifically in the graduate school, we are helping young artists and designers develop the perspectives and skills that the future requires. We believe that we are helping to shape and form and create the practitioners and the creative leaders of the future. We also need to make our courses responsive because of the arrival of Generation Z, and maybe those of you who are applicants and students out there listening to this at the moment, you are probably so-called Generation Z, and then the next generation to come, Generation Alpha and Generation C, who are they're the children now who've experienced COVID, their first experiences of the world being the pandemic. They're going to be different, and the world will be different. And we will need to be developing courses in universities that are responsive to these new conditions. So if the question is what's going on in the UK that might not be going on elsewhere to the same extent, it is that sense. And I can absolutely guarantee that here at CSVPA, we are kind of absolutely thinking, what will the future need, and what does an art and design university need to provide? Well, sometimes it's children who don't even know that they're going to become artists or designers yet, but it's also those who are 17, 18, 19, 20, who in the next 10 and 20 years' time are going to be taking part in this transformation of the world. The old ideas, I'm afraid, just will not stick any longer. The world is changing and we need to change with it, but we need to change it for the better. And we believe that we're doing that here at CSVPA. Dreaming of universities whose spaces are mixed and multicolored, striped like a tiger, blended in different shades, dyed with numerous pigments, twinkling like stars, real like a landscape. These are the words of the French philosopher and educationalist Michel Serres. He died in 2019, but Serres, could see into the future that necessity that universities need to reinvigorate themselves, become much more vibrant spaces of experimentation. And I'd like to think that the graduate school at CSVPA is not just kind of black and white, but it too is this multicolored mixed space. So these are our courses: an MA Art and Design, MA Fashion Branding, Creative Communication, MA Fashion Design, and 2 Visual Communication Masters, a Graphic Design and Illustration and Animation. They're all validated by Falmouth University, and there's also a Graduate Diploma in Art and Design and a Pre-Masters in Art and Design, and I'll talk about those a little bit later on. I'll start with the Masters courses, but these are distinct and individual Masters courses, but they kind of operate also together as a single unit of Masters programs. One would study that across 3 study blocks from September of one academic year to the September of the following year. The Graduate Diploma, incidentally, is 2 study blocks, that's September to May, and the Pre-Masters is 1 study block, January to May. But look, let's just come back to this idea of what binds them all together, because students on Graduate Diploma might mix and collaborate with students on MA and Pre-Masters, but what we're looking to do is create innovative and interactive and interdisciplinary and intense educational experiences that recognize that the future and present need to be made by kind of a new generation of ideas to meet the complex problems that the world faces. And so, as an individual, but also as a collective, it's across these areas that we are significantly recognizing that we organize and shape our courses. Actually, say kind of intense, but also intimate. These are bespoke, personalized courses. You are working then with individuals, side by side, week on, week out, and you're not ever sitting in a lecture hall looking up at a screen. It's absolutely hands-on. It's absolutely practical. It's conceptual as well. It's theoretical, but the experimentation starts with doing, making. So this is the structure. I'll just quickly go through this. There are core studio modules. You can see how each one of the courses has its own course leader, its own core studio module. So, if you really want to develop certain skills within graphic design, well, you'll be able to do that through those core studio modules in study block 1 and study block 2, and the same for all the other courses. But then significantly, this is the innovation, we have shared modules. So in study block 1, it's called Research Practice, and I lead that. It's about interdisciplinary ideas. What is research-led practice? In study block 2, it's called Creative Futures. That's a more outward-facing, industry, professional context-facing module. And then the students this year are just embarking on their independent major project. All students on all MA courses study that. All the way through, they also are members of or inducted into the Digital Media Lab, the Photography Lab, and the Material Experimentation Lab. So again, you can see you could be on MA Art and Design or Visual Communication, and you're still then sharing skills and understandings from those labs, the conceptual ideas and the experience in the shared modules, and then still the kind of ongoing disciplinary practice. So it's both disciplinary and interdisciplinary. Alongside other interdisciplinary seminars, we promote the making of video essays, written essays and video essays, as well as we have the CSVPA Arts Lab. And this is our link ups with Cambridge University, with technology companies in Cambridge and elsewhere, as well as experimental collaborative workshops with Cambridge University students. So in all of these ways, you can see that one might be on MA fashion design, but one finds oneself studying alongside fashion communicators, sculptors, product designers, graphic designers, illustrators, animators, fine artists, painters. And within all of that, in that interdisciplinary mix, in the betweenness, comes the kind of originality that our students begin to emerge with. I mentioned the Arts Lab. Let me just talk about one Arts Lab link up we have at the moment. Really excited about the Phoenix project. We've got a briefing tomorrow with Professor Richard Corsten. So he is a world's leading classical music composer, and we're collaborating with him a piece of music that he wrote back in 2006 called Phoenix. And so he is collaborating with us because our students are going to be producing visual responses to this piece, this difficult piece of music for flute, clarinet, violin, violoncello, and piano. So it's a conceptual piece of experimental classical music. And this idea of the phoenix in art from ancient times, as all of these works are kind of called Phoenix one way or another. So our students are able, it's not part of a brief, they're not told what to do or how to do it. It's just an invitation to be creative. And anyone who participates in this project, no one gets told that's not good enough, you can't do this. Every work will in some way, shape or form be included within a series of exhibitions to be held next summer as part of the Phoenix Festival in abandoned retail units throughout Cambridge. Unfortunately, like in Cambridge, like in other parts of the world, certain businesses were hit, and we want to play our part, art and design playing a part to be like the Phoenix-like kind of renewal of the high street through art and design, showing how useful art and design is to society. No one wants to see these sad, empty shops while we wait for new businesses to come into them. Let's fill them with works produced as a result of the Phoenix project. So this is an original. I'm not sure that there's any school of art or design in the world that has embarked on this kind of project. We have a number of others that are similar, but it's because we're small, we can imagine big and take on imaginative projects. And so, it gives some sense of the kind of ideas and the ethos within the graduate school. So the MA programs, day after tomorrow, will be the video essay symposium. This is where the MA students from this year basically do their project proposals for their final major project. It will result in a couple of exhibitions in the autumn, but it's another way in which we bring in innovative teaching approaches. We could just say, give us a project proposal, and they write it down, they hand it in. No, here we facilitate the students to gain new skills with video editing. They make a video essay that is the means by which they experimentally put across their ideas. And then as part of a symposium, they're brought together to discuss their projects in this kind of imaginative way. But some of them who've never worked with video before end up with new skills that they may never have achieved beforehand. So in all of these respects, it's just another example of how innovative, interdisciplinary, all the students on Friday will be all learning from each other, and it's not just fashion designers doing fashion design or graphic designers doing graphic design, because the world doesn't need a single other graphic designer who only thinks about graphic design. The world does not need a single other fashion designer who goes, the only thing I think about is fashion design. You come to CSVPA in the graduate school, and if you've already got that focus, well, you can keep the focus, but we'll be enabling you to have lots of peripheral vision as well, because that is how you will be most effective. So I'm really looking forward to this on Friday. We challenge our students intellectually. They have to also respond to the ideas of an Italian philosopher called Giorgio Agamben. What is an apparatus? And they have to think about, well, what is an apparatus, and how am I working with these ideas in my practice? So, it's very much a practical MA. There's lots of technical skills, but there's conceptual and intellectual and academic development as well. I have to say, I'm so proud of working on these master's courses. It's the full package. Let me give you a few examples I realize that we're probably running out of time, but let me just run through a few examples. Just because Maria Lvova, here she was doing a data visualization project. Last year, Maria was fascinated by K-pop. So she produced a kind of a visual analysis of K-pop. So in each one of these graphic visualizations, you can see she kind of rendered what is previously invisible, information, each individual's member's birthday date represented through a graph. She makes that visible. And when you think about how much in this world today, a world of data, a world of information, think how much of that is invisible. Well, we need artists, designers with skills to make the invisible visible. And so Maria, with her data visualization, produced an absolutely stunning piece of work and really, really impressive. What looks like constellations in the night sky are actually the dance moves of a particular K-pop band, but imagined as dance moves. I should talk a little bit, I suppose, about our link up with Hearst magazines. So it's a competitive mentorship scheme in which students receive quite a lot of lectures and insights and visits to Hearst publications in London. Then Hearst set a brief, our students respond to that brief, and then a number are chosen. It's a kind of work experience, but actually it's a one-to-one mentorship with people who work at Hearst, and that's kind of a successful collaboration. But also, students sometimes don't want to enter into that. They could enter an international design competition as part of their professional context brief. And this was one student from last year who entered an international design contest and ended up winning the Pentland Churchill wardrobe competition for his work. So we were very proud of Alex's success there. But then it could even be as part of this second study block professional context. This was a student this year, Nadia, who basically wanted to explore the murky world of non-fungible tokens, NFTs, the stock market, cryptocurrency. And it was an amazing project where memes become almost like currency in the world of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and Ethereum. And she played the stock market as a graphic designer in order to be able to earn enough money to be able to buy some cryptocurrency an absolutely brilliant project. Which certainly taught me more than I ever knew about these areas beforehand. But the kind of project that is absolutely necessary. For one student, a mentorship with Hearst will be really valuable. So far as I'm concerned, this project for Nadia will be what gets her foot in the door of a creative agency, because she's created genuinely unique work. A creative director would look at that and go, yeah, we want people like you working for us. Absolutely. So, this idea of employability is even more and more about the imagination that one brings to one's own work. It's not so much anymore about make the tea, make the coffee for a big company and work your way up in that way. It's a blend of the two, but everyone should be really aware of that, especially in a world where work experience, internships have really taken a knock. The most powerful ticket into the business is the portfolio in which the work exists that no one has ever seen before in that way. So from the serious and the murky world of cryptocurrency, we have children's book illustration. And this is a Chinese student, Zhu, who basically put together a series of wonderful children's books, thinking about character design, about really teaching children about endangered animals, using this kind of experimental illustration and graphic language that she developed. She'd never worked with collage before she came on the course. And one can see at the end here, producing a series of wonderful kind of character designs for her work. Look, there's more work that I was going to show you, but I'm aware that I have run out of time. So what I will do is, I think, quickly cut to the final thing I wanted to say about the graduate diploma and pre-masters. So I will, if you bear with me just for a couple of minutes, I will share my screen again just while I call that up. So it won't be too long because I want to show off about our student progressions that this year have been absolutely astonishing. So graduate diploma, pre-masters, like I say, graduate diploma is a 2 study block course, pre-masters is a 1 study block, and you can see there, bottom left, they fit in with all the MA courses as well. Again, 2 core studio modules for the graduate diploma, and 1 for the pre-masters, but if the students have access to each other as well as to the video. They also make video essays. They can also participate in an arts lab, the digital media lab, the photography lab, the material experimentation, and so on. But what we're really proud of is you can just see here side by side a photography student and a product design student. It's the links that we try and foster interdisciplinary and innovative between these different students, the interactivity of the courses across graphic designers and fine artists, or fashion designers and interior designers and architects. What you can see in these pairings are the parallels between them that are really key for us. Here I am showing off, just look at some of these destinations that we've helped our students achieve. So Royal College of Art, Central St Martin's, 2 going to MA Art and Science. For me, that's one of the most exciting art courses in the world today, the MA Art Science at Central St Martin's, Character Animation at Central St Martin's as well, MA Advertising at LCC. Also so excited by Jawen going to do the study onto the Masters in Research on the Art Moving Image course. Again, one of the most competitive courses for curators, museum directors in the world, and she's an artist who wants to kind of be a curator and an artist as well. So across all of these, it ranges from automotive and transport design to the MA Photography Arts at the University of Westminster, again, one of the world's leading photography courses. Really, really proud of all of them, even if I haven't picked them out by name. And then last year, you can see some more. Again, Sung Kyu going to Central St Martin's on the MA Women's Wear, which is the world's leading fashion course, and then other students going to London College of Fashion, again Coventry University for Automotive Design, Goldsmiths University, and the list goes on. So we're so proud of all of these students, and we don't let them go either, because they're all invited to participate in projects like the Phoenix Project. So once you leave CSVPA, you never leave. You might go on to some great and kind of famous university and one of the world's leading courses, we hope so, and have a fantastic experience at MA. But we always have a little, you leave a little part of you with us in Cambridge, and part of that is you get invited to participate in these open projects in due course. Okay, so look, I think that I will probably have to leave it there for the presentations. Bear with me, because what I haven't spoken about is portfolios, but actually, do you know what? I have. Everything that I was talking about was about, and everything that I was showing in every presentation was about showing creative practice, was about balancing texts and images, was about taking an individual's creative practice and creating an experience for someone else to get some insight into that. I'm never going to show anyone ever how to do a portfolio, because I don't believe that such a thing can and should exist. So, what am I going to do? Well, I just say, and then you must put this picture here and then do that there, and then no, because actually, what's the most important thing? The most important thing for any creative practice are these 3 terms. It's about play, it's about invention, it's about discovery, and it's about a personal sense that you are creating an experience for someone else. If you really want to, you can go onto Google, there are other search engines available, and just Google best portfolio designs, graphic design, best portfolio designs, fashion design, best portfolio designs, architecture, and the changed world of information will help you look at all sorts of very, very good, you'll get all sorts of articles and all sorts of websites that'll tell you this is good, this is good, this is good. But actually, do you know what? You're going to have to start making those decisions for yourself, going, which one is best? There isn't a best. The best is the one that you right there, that moment go, I see myself reflected in this. I'm going to take this model. I'm going to take this template. I'm going to do it a bit like that, but then I might take a bit of that. And maybe if I had the pictures like that with text like this, or I really like the way that that person's done this. I really like the way that person's done that. And then you fuse it all together into your own portfolio. Well, that is a portfolio. All you need to do is show what you love, show what you're enthusiastic about. That is all you need to do, quite genuinely. I'm now going to put something in the chat for everyone to take away, and it is basically some portfolio guidelines. So they are CSVPA. I've called them CSVPA Portfolio Development Guidelines. Now, I have to admit that some of these include some of what I helped write for UAL when I was at UAL. So you might have come across, I wasn't going to completely rewrite it. So I contributed to a UAL, what is a portfolio, and now I've just, adapted it a little bit. But you won't see a single image. You won't see a single picture in it. It's just some guidelines. And think of it as your first brief. Go away. If you haven't got a portfolio already, go away and create a portfolio. And I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I'm not going to insist that you do it one way or another way. It's up to you to invent it from scratch. And nothing is going to be wrong because you have done the research, started putting it together, and started to, if you don't have a portfolio already, well, you can invent one for yourself. And if you have got a portfolio already, one thing that any creative practitioner will always have to learn is your portfolio is never finished. It's always being added to. You're always having to recreate it, reinvent it, rediscover it, because it's about invention, discovery, and play. So I invite you to play, research, invent, discover, and do it fearlessly, because there is no one way to do things. The moment that anyone says, it must be like this, it must be like that, that's the moment that you say, no, and I'm going to go to CSVPA because I'm going to go somewhere where they trust creative practitioners to be creative. Okay, bro, that's it from me. Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? I appreciate that we overran a little bit, but sometimes that's just the way of things.
Well,
sorry, it's a really bad line. I can't. I didn't hear that. I think there's a Zoom freeze.
You've pretty much covered with your presentation all the questions I had initially. So most of the times what parents really wonder about and concerned about is the return on investment, because they want to know where is it that they're going to end up after they graduate, what kind of opportunities they will have upon completion. I mean, you have indeed mentioned them all, but probably if you can sort of like make a summary of what is it that they're getting at the end of the whole experience of intense education, which is very intimate and quite innovative as well. So that will be also great to know.
Okay, yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll start with that one. I mean, just thank you. I mean, it's a great question. That question, return on investment, is absolutely fair enough. But how could anyone? No one can guarantee any kind of return on any investment. And of course, the investment is not only financial. The investment is financial. It's emotional. It's kind of creative. It's in terms of the effort. And I would say that the only thing that I can say, and I can't guarantee people, I'm not going to guarantee anyone a job. I'm not going to guarantee. I mean, I ended up where I am today because I happened to take a train a day late. many years ago because it snowed, and then I bumped into someone on that track, and I wasn't going to start teaching. I was on a completely different track. And so, chance, hard work, it all factors in. That idea of complexity theory, chaos theory is, who knows where one ends up. And I think that as a creative practitioner, that sense of just recognizing that the best place to ever put oneself is at the leading edge. There is no safe path. If you want to play safe, forget it. You'll get nowhere. If you want to play safe, you'll end up not putting yourself in the kind of places, the kind of spaces, the kind of opportunities in which you can then understand how to make the most of one of your own kind of skills, your own abilities, your own aptitudes. We believe that the MA, the graduate diploma, and indeed the pre-masters are all variously spaces of transformation. So partly that intensity is, we're working with students to say, okay, you think you're heading that direction. You don't even know why you're heading that direction, do you? Why aren't you doing that? Look at your work. Why aren't you? For example, one student this year, she came onto the course in the graduate diploma saying, I want to be an animator for Disney Pixar. And we looked at her work and said, really? But you're such a good animator. Why would you want to be one of 1,000 people animating one finger of a Disney princess somewhere in an animation studio, maybe in the Philippines? That's the reality. Maybe one day she could end up being a director for an animation at Disney Pixar, but you would not do it by just somehow applying that way. We just said, explore other things. Use the course to expand your understanding of yourself. And she is now going to do MA advertising at LCC. So it's one of the world's leading, and actually she discovered on the course that she's a naturally gifted advertiser. She knows, she's from, by the way, she's from Irkutsk. And I have to say that she's a genius at advertising, but she didn't know that. We didn't know that. She thought she'd be an animator. She will be able to apply her ability with text and image and the imagination and a kind of restless curiosity. And she discovered that in the course. So I've got no doubt that Galina is going to end up, wherever she is, she'll be a creative director. So in that sense, we help put people on the road with all of our experience, with the intensity of kind of I suppose, kind of the input that we put in. So return on her investment, it's still a gamble. She doesn't know fully yet what the return on that investment will be. But the next step is a leading advertising course. The next step after that, a job in advertising. I fully believe that we'll see Galina one day, heading up a creative department in an advertising agency. She has the gift. So, so that's what we try and do. We do try and help students kind of position themselves the best for future employment.
That's great. My other question, if you permit, nowadays in Kyrgyzstan especially, we have a lot of talks about creative economy, creative industry. So, and certainly students who are leaving the school may not always know that there are opportunities in creative industry in terms of career opportunities, in terms of job opportunities, and basically possibilities. We don't know what possibilities there are because the economy of the country is quite small. The industries are not all of them sort of represented because we learn a lot about all sorts of new stuff from other countries, like from the US and from UK, from Europe and elsewhere. And therefore, market size being small, information being basically arriving from internet and from other resources, what message would you give to students in terms of choosing the career and considering creative industries for career, what the opportunities there are for the kids nowadays, the Gen Zs and Alphas and Cs, basically? That would be great.
I would say don't listen to your parents. Don't listen to your parents. Actually, I was fortunate. My parents let me do whatever I wanted to do. maybe they shouldn't have done. They encouraged me in all of my my ideas. But don't listen to the voice, because we might all have it. The voice of fear, voice of I need to get there. Oh, but if you don't do that, you won't get it. You won't do. You need to do this. You need to do that. It's partly why I talked about this idea that the complex problems of the world will need to be solved increasingly by interdisciplinary teams of people coming together, engineers, scientists, philosophers, historians, artists, designers. And so that is the future. You know, there is going to be a space on every, you know, and that's happening. And that is partly what will be made by the world, I believe. And yes, it sounds very utopian, but I'll happily fly that flag. It's also born of, you know, I spend a lot of time thinking about these things, looking at the creative industries, you know, understanding, you know, when kind of leading global organizations call creativity like the second most important skill that one has alongside kind of collaboration, these are not just kind of inventions, these are not just fancies. And so, you know, this genuine sense of being able to understand what creativity is outside of a must be a graphic designer, must be, because actually employment is changing. And this is why I say don't listen to your parents, because a parent, you know, even I'm a parent, you know, it's almost like don't listen to me, Ed, don't listen to me. And I see my children making the decisions they're making, and I can feel that little tug, and I'm thinking, actually no, because in a sense they already know what it is that they need to be able to navigate and negotiate a world in which there's going to be a lot of uncertainty. There's going to be a lot of ambiguity. There's, you know, the job for life, does that exist anymore? So within that, it's about the skills around generating kind of creative responses, around collective, collaborative work. Every single visiting speaker comes in is talking about their own experience of how they got to where they are today. And, you know, they're very often working here, working there. They're kind of setting up their own company, their own collective, their own cooperative. They're also doing some teaching. So it's this portfolio, building up a portfolio idea of how one might operate as a creative practitioner. But the bottom line is, we believe that we are training the generations of creative leaders. So you know, it's almost not quite, we're not a management school, but in terms of, you know, what is required to be the creative director, not just what is required to be kind of the junior designer. You know, so it's fine, you'll have all those skills to be the junior designer, you might need to build up, but it's also that sense of implanting the seed of ambition to be the creative director as well. And actually, if one can show that in your portfolio, that's going to be what gets you the job as a junior designer, rather than someone with a more, you know, common or garden portfolio. I think there will be only growing opportunities for creative practitioners, I would say. But it takes, you know, but it takes resilience, it takes ingenuity, it takes a leap of faith, it takes drive. I can assure anyone, if anyone is thinking, oh, I don't know, oh, but it's a bit of a risk, isn't it? Don't go into the creative industries. Find something else. Find something else. You know, that's a pretty harsh, but I'd say realistic piece of advice. But if you're still kind of driven by ambition, desire, a kind of that urge to make, to create, to respond, to contribute to the world in some way, shape, or form through creative activity, then in a way, whatever voices are coming in, you're going to listen to that urge. You're going to listen to that instinct. You know, because you can't get rid of that. Or if you don't listen to it, I can assure you, you'll be coming back to it in 10 or 20 years' time. You know, having gone down another path, you know, it gets you in the end. If you have that itch, you're going to have to scratch it at some point.
So related to the itch, I have another question. Sorry, I keep asking. So sometimes kids, so they have the itch, they have a desire, but they may not have the skills. So what advice would you give in this case? They want to get in.
Okay, you know, define skills. Anyone can learn a skill. You don't need to go to art school to learn a skill. Anyone can sit at home and watch YouTube. That's got more technical instruction to develop a skill. To develop a skill, you have to bother to sit and watch that YouTube video and again and practice and practice. So actually the skill, it's not, you might have talent, but if you haven't got the application to develop skills, and of course skills go on and skills go on and skills go on, you're never, there's always going to be someone more skillful than you. And so actually the skills are here. They're not just, the skills are conceptual. The skills are about what one knows, to even recognize what creativity is, to make something from nothing. Martin Anderson, who is our course leader for visual communication, has a number of workshops where they basically make something from nothing. And he starts with scraps of paper sitting around the studio, and then you turn that into something else. You turn it into a 3D model, and then you photograph it. And then you photograph it with lights in a particular way and with close-up lenses. And then you take it into Photoshop. And then the next week, you have to produce a poster for the workshop that you just did using typography. So that's from nothing, from a nothing scrap of paper. All students have then learnt about how to design a poster for a workshop that's already happened. So, you know, there's so many ways that's the skill. You know, that is the skill, to be able to know that it's not like, oh, what's my big idea? Oh, how do I? No, the big idea is just lying around there right now. And so that's why it's conceptual. It's not about, it's not, okay. If you or I wanted to make a nice dinner for family or friends, you know, certainly me, I don't cook well enough. I would have to follow a recipe. Okay. But if you follow a recipe in the world of creative practice, then you are lost. There are no recipes. That's why I won't tell you. I won't say make a portfolio like this. I'm not going to give you a recipe. There's plenty out there if you want to. But I say invent that recipe for yourself. And it's okay, because actually, even if it tastes slightly odd, that doesn't matter, because that oddness might be the very next idea that people say, that's fantastic, I've never seen that before, I love that. So don't follow recipes. You know, yes, you can develop all the skills you like. You don't need to go to art school to find recipes. But what you do need to do to come to, I'd say, you know, a lot of art schools, but I would say particularly CSVPA, because we intensively recognize that it's about that sense of not following recipes, of something from nothing, of always being able to reinvent oneself, and recognize that what lies at the heart of the most exciting professional practices is not professionalism, it's amateurism, it's play. Play and an amateur desire is so much more important than professionalism, which is just there anyway. We make sure it's there anyway. Try getting away with any of our course leaders producing a piece of work which doesn't look good, which is shoddy, which hasn't been thought through. Be like, oh no, that doesn't work. But actually, if the idea is kind of great, well then that you're still going to be working with that. So yeah, I would say that's really that's really key.
One more question. Because you mentioned about talent, so then my question is, and quite a lot of parents and students also, yeah, just a quick one, nature versus nurture, right? How important talent is in this sense then when entering into a creative industry or professional school?
No, I would say, you know, what again, you know, define skill, define talent. You know what it's about understanding how everyone's creative. No one should be standing up there saying, oh, you know, everyone has access to this. You know, what is talent? You know, I would say talent is anyone who has the ingenuity and the resilience to create a life for themselves in relation to creative practice, whatever it be. That's talent. And we all have our, you know, partly it might be that you're finding exactly what that is. But yeah, I mean, that's essentially what, yeah, I mean, that's that talent. I almost don't really believe that in such a thing as talent, but also equally, I believe that everyone has talent. And so then that's about almost a bigger philosophical question around self-recognition, kind of in a sense, not finding oneself, but becoming oneself. You know, we become who we are, and our courses can certainly help people become who they already are. I'd say that facilitation is key. Look, I'm going to have to go because I've got, I'm already a bit late for an appointment. That's my fault because I was talking too much. But I'm going to have to dash now. If anyone else has any questions, please do just email them to me. Let me just put my email in the chat. edimsel@csvpa.com. And I will also I'll send Yulia the PowerPoints when I get the chance. But look, thank you very much, all of you. Really appreciate your time. I hope that's been useful. It may not be exactly what you expected, but that's the experience in the graduate school at CSVPA. Maybe that's the positive spin I'll put on it. But thank you for your time. Thank you for your questions. I'm going to have to dash now. All the very best to you, and take care.
Thank you, Edward, for the presentation, for the amazing and inspirational talk. We'll look forward to hearing from you again soon. And yeah, all the best.
Anything I can do, and we can just keep working together on trying to kind of create the most effective messages for to help us kind of spread the word. Okay, better go. Bye bye.
Bye for now. Bye. Thanks everyone for participating, for joining us.